listening to the Marketing Personalities Podcast, a podcast for growth-minded entrepreneurs that serves up valuable insight and interviews about aligning your marketing strategy with your personality type. Because here's the deal. You shouldn't have to feel fake and salesy in order to grow your business. And you no longer have to. Your marketing strategy can feel good to implement and it can work. You can attract the right clients and customers to your business and grow your profits, all while staying true to who you naturally are. So in the name of honest business growth, bring your unique talents, perspectives, and personality to the table. And join us on this week's podcast episode to discover marketing that feels good for you. Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Personalities Podcast. I'm Brit Kolo, and today I'm going to give you a closer look at the Explorer Tribe. You are part of the Explorer Tribe if you are either an ISTP, ISFP, ESTP, or ESFP. I've done a closer look at all of the tribes so far, the Analyst Tribe, the Diplomat Tribe, and the Sentinel Tribe. And now we are here at the fourth tribe, the Explorer Tribe. If you're in this tribe, I apologize that you've had to wait this long, but of course you've probably found by now the review of the Explorer Tribe that I did with Christy Runzer back a few episodes ago. I'll link it in the show notes. If you haven't listened to that yet, that's going to be a really great follow-up to this episode. Today, I'm just solo on the mic. I'm just going to run through what you need to know about the Explorer Tribe. And if you are part of this tribe or you work closely with someone in this tribe, you're going to go away with some really great nuggets. But if you want to hear some back and forth conversation about this tribe, I definitely recommend going to that episode with Christy Runzer. Again, it's linked in the show notes, super easy to find. So you can hear kind of that back and forth and even more nuances into this tribe of explorers. But in this episode, I'm going to give you, just like I've done in all the other closer looks at the tribes, I'm going to give you some information you can know about each of the four types within this tribe, what their best marketing strategy is, and real key information where each one of them tends to get tripped up in actually implementing the strategy that I've given them. Okay, so we've got to know about those hurdles, and I'm going to deliver that today in this episode. So we're going to start at the top with ISTP. You know what? Even before I get there, across the board, I don't have a whole lot of explorers in my circles. I at least don't see them as much in the online entrepreneur space. I'm 100% sure that they're there. Just haven't seen them a whole lot. But I have, of the ones that have gotten their best marketing strategies at marketingpersonalities.com. They've gotten on the email, they've reached out, or I've reached out to them. I've had some really great discussions to get to know them better. And it's been really interesting to get a peek into how this tribe operates. So let me kind of give you an overview of the tribe of explorers, and then we'll get into ISTP. Okay, I kind of like jumped the gun there. Okay, so if you are a part of the Explorer Tribe, here are some things that we absolutely know about you. So first of all, you are experience driven. Okay, so as part of the Explorer Tribe, you tend to appreciate spontaneity, getting your hands dirty, and being a part of the process in order to learn and grow. So if you remember back to our other closer looks at the different tribes, we know that each of the other tribes, they're driven by something else. So the Analyst Tribe, they're driven by logic. The Diplomat Tribe, they are driven by mission. And the Sentinel Tribe, they are driven by order. Now we're here with the Explorer Tribe, and you are driven by experience, okay? Now, your motto might be go with the flow, right? So you are naturally spontaneous, and you're best when you're making decisions on the fly with very little preparation preceding, and you know that life is happening right here, right now, and you're consistently ready to take it all in. So with this being your preference and kind of like your MO, your place where you're usually at, you have to start with action. I constantly bring this up because I get questions all the time like, okay, well, where do I start? Well, the answer to that question really is within your personality type and within your tribe. So if you're an analyst, you've got to start with strategy. You got to know the steps to the process and where to start from there. If you're a part of the diplomat tribe, you have to start with your why. Strategy still matters, but it's not the very first thing that you need to start with. You've got to start with your why. Why the heck are you doing this, right? Because you're mission driven. If you're part of the Sentinel tribe, you have to start with organization. These are the people that organization actually isn't a procrastination technique. It's something that they must do in order to bring them their best selves to the table and to the project. Now we're here with the Explorer tribes. These types have to start with action. If you are part of the Explorer tribe, you make sense of things as you work on them rather than planning everything out ahead of time, which, as you might imagine, might get a little annoying, especially the analyst tribe who has to start with strategy. But you must start by getting your hands dirty, playing with all the pieces and building something from there. And you love freedom. You love freedom. You are at your best when you can be versatile and free to explore things without pressure, right? So if you're an explorer listening right now, you're bobbing your head like, yep, okay, yes, that's totally true. That's totally true. And I will say, you probably know somebody like this too. And I think, at least from my perspective, my human perspective, you know by now, I'm an ENFJ. From my perspective, explorers stick out to me because of their spontaneity, their willingness to just go for it without much of a plan. And I admire that. And I also see other people trying to emulate that, but they're actually not explorers. I see it all the time. Like with, you hear this one crazy story of this person who had no email list and no following and nothing. And all of a sudden, in like a day, they have 600 people in their membership just because they just decided to like throw it out there and offer it. And boom, they have a whole bunch of money rolling in. Now, those stories are never as they seem, right? Like the actuality of what really happened is never what is communicated. However, I see explorers living in the world like this, spontaneous, throw stuff out there, see what sticks, like see what works, go from there. And I admire it. And sometimes I wish I was like that. But then at other times, at the end of the day, I want all of us to operate the way in which we were made to operate. So if you're an explorer, keep doing you. Keep putting things into action. You don't need the crazy strategies. You don't need the mission. You don't need the organization. You just need to put something into play, which gets a little interesting to coach from my end because, right, I'm the marketing strategist. So, but we've worked through it. Christy and I got into a good conversation about that on that previous episode I've already mentioned. So if you want to hear how that really works out between the marketing strategy coach and the hardcore ISFP explorer, you can go listen to that one. But, if you're part of this tribe, keep doing what you're doing. I feel like from the conversations I've had with people in the Explorer tribe, they have had plenty of experiences in their life with people telling them to slow down, make a plan. People concerned that they're being a little too risky, a little too spontaneous. And it seems like they have these stories of people trying to hold, like, they might see it as people trying to hold them back. And in actuality, it's simply because in most cases, I think the explorer was operating out of their natural just tendency to just go for it. And the person that they were dealing with and getting a response from or a reaction from was not an explorer. I had one story where an explorer person had a very logic-driven analyst father. And that relationship felt really strained because the analyst father was working from logic, starting with strategy, being driven by logic and data and analytics. And this person, that's just not how they operated at all, like not even a little bit. And they both could get onto a successful path and find success, but in just very different ways. And until you are self-aware enough to recognize that within yourself and then actually kind of put the pieces together and see what's happening in others, that can be really hard, right? I think that's a pretty common story for these explorers because they can be pretty easily misunderstood. And so if you're listening and you're like, yeah, man, I have a relationship like that, kind of like a forced one going on. I think it's pretty common. And the fact that you're here listening to this and wanting to know more about yourself, people that you love, become more self aware, and learn how to leverage all of these strengths, you're so ahead of the game. I'm so glad you're here. So, those are our explorers at that big picture level. Now, let's go into each of the 4 types within this tribe. So, we'll start with the ISTP. Oh, one more thing. Man, I just keep going forward. I'm just on going way too fast today. Have you noticed we've got ISTP, ISFP, ESTP, and ESFP? You notice the 2 letters that these people have in common? They've got that S as the second letter and P as the 4th letter. So the S stands for observant. That means that they're going to be preferring to pay more attention to external cues rather than internal cues. And then that 4th letter is a P, which stands for perceiving. Perceivers tend to see a lot more gray in situations. They don't go ahead and see real clear boundaries between options, between people groups. It's not as clear, the differences between different things. And so within that, they just remain open to whatever may come their way, whatever may happen, because they're not making clear boundary lines between things, between options, between people, like I said, like the judging types do. And so perceivers tend to be pretty open, sometimes to a fault, but as with all of our letters, we can all do these things to a fault, right? Honestly, as a hard J, I think I take my judging type too far sometimes. And so I look at perceivers and I'm like, man, I need a little you in my life. So that's what all of these explorers have in common, that S and that P, observer and perceiver. So with that said, we're finally going to dig into ISTP. ISTP, also known as the virtuoso. I love that word, virtuoso. And according to 16 personalities, these ISTPs, they tend to be bold and practical experimenters, and they're masters of all kinds of tools. So they typically find their flow when they're working with their hands and completely free to create or build anything they would like. So it sometimes happens with an ISTP that they would be called a prodigy with a certain type of tool, like a musical instrument, technology, or language, anything that they could really master. I mean, prodigy is a pretty big word, a pretty powerful word, and it doesn't always happen with ISTPs, but if it's going to happen in any personality type, it might very well happen in this one. And for an ISTP virtuoso, their power is really realized when they not only imagine a creative solution to a problem that they see in the world, but then they go and build the solution with their own 2 hands. These people can be incredible, like I said, experimenters, and also because of their experimentation and their just knack to master things, and regardless of how long it might take them, they tinker away, and they master it, and then they end up being inventors of things. So when their handiwork connects with a real solution people really need in their lives, these ISTPs, they can't be stopped. So that's what's going on with them. Now, an ISTP's best marketing strategy, what I suggest is including detailed digital sales funnels that allow them to A/B test different parts of their customer journey. Okay, so this A/B testing is really what's going to light the ISTP up. Being able to, again, tinker, experiment, kind of implement these different little tweaks to master what they would consider that digital sales funnel. They're so creative and yet practical, and especially enjoy creating and testing things. And so where they might often find themselves doing this with their hands, like I don't know why, but I always think of an ISTP kind of in their workshop, like woodwork, like some kind of interesting, like handmade something. But it can also happen online. So if they're willing to go online, I also see ISTPs creating incredible apps and digital platforms. And then when they create those things, those solutions, the app or the digital platform or whatever that is, then being able to A B test how to get people onto that app or platform is like, it is exactly what an ISTP's brain is made to do, right? Now, the holdup here for an ISTP, and I go into greater detail of the holdup and why this best marketing strategy matters, how all these pieces come together in the marketing personality type full report, right? You know that more detail there. But I will say the ISTP tends to get stuck not really wanting to market at all. And you'll see this across the board for explorers. This tends to be somewhat of a trend. They don't really want to market it, mostly because they just want to do their thing. They just want to continue tinkering with what they're working on right now. And the way that I compromise those two things, like at some point, once you make something, you're going to have to get it in front of people. And getting in whatever you make in front of people is marketing. Like that's what it is. And so that's why I work in the ISTP's ability to tinker and master right into their marketing strategy and allow them to A/B test things. I think that is a way in which an ISTP can move into the world of marketing if he or she needs to and still allow it to feel good and fun, right? Tinker with it, experiment with it. It's the same thing with what you're doing with whatever skill you already have and then you love doing. It's the same thing. It's just applied to a digital sales funnel. Just tinkering, testing things, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, right? So yeah, there's a little holdup, actually a pretty big holdup there. I have yet to really meet an ISTP that wants to market anything, honestly. I think that's part of the reason why I don't have a whole lot of them in my audience. Because if they do have something to market, they have found someone on their team, their spouse or their cousin or their sister or brother or somebody to do the marketing for them, which is totally an option. Go for it. Totally fine. Just send them over to marketingpersonalities.com so they can find out what their marketing personality type is, right? But if it is up to you and you're the ISTP, I encourage you to look at the ways in which you can test all the pieces of your customer journey, A/B test everything. Your ads, your website pages, your landing pages, all of that, test it out. And that experimentation, while it might overcomplicate and stress other people out, it won't for you. This is what you do. It's just applied to a different kind of thing, right? So that's the ISTP. Moving on to the ISFP, also known as the adventurer. And this is what Christy Runzer is, who I had my previous conversation with about the Explorer tribe. So Christy was an ISFP adventurer. And these ISFPs, they're flexible and charming artists, always ready to explore and experience something new. Okay. Now, that's the description according to 16 personalities. That's not my own description. That's theirs. And that word artist, I've noticed, can kind of freak some ISFPs out. They're like, really? I don't really necessarily consider myself an artist. Meanwhile, some ISFPs, like that's literally what they do. That's literally their business, is their art. So they totally resonate with that. Other ISFPs, they might not resonate with the word artist, but once you look at how they do things, you recognize, yeah, you actually are an artist. You might not be painting or creating music or whatever other stereotypical artistry there is, but there's artistry within your work. And they're, again, that word adventurer, they're always ready to explore and experience something new, right? So they find flow when they're creating something for both its aesthetic value and its deeper social value, okay? And when they're doing this, they have to feel free to follow their feelings in the moment, right? Remember, anybody in the Explorer tribe, they love their freedom. They have to have that freedom. So because of this one's a tough one because if any personality type is going to get clammed up by the idea of creating and implementing a marketing strategy, it's probably going to be an ISFP. It just rubs them the wrong way. It starts to feel like the opposite of freedom. And so, what I encourage ISFPs to do is to, instead of building a strict strategy, I encourage them to create and offer their services and products in a way that allows the prospective customer to try what they have to offer before they buy. Okay? Because this is a very free-flowing experience. And that's really what the ISFP is driven by, right? Experience. And because they're driven by that, they tend to be really great at creating experiences that people love. And so I just encourage ISFPs to, if you're not already, offering some way, get creative here, because if anybody's going to get creative, it's going to be you. Get creative here and think about, how could you allow your prospective customer to try what you have to offer before they actually buy it? Is it a 7-day trial? Is it a sample? Is it something that allows them to come in, experience what you have to offer, and then either walk away if it's not for them or buy if it is? So you don't really have to talk about it. You just have to get people into that trial thing and really let the rest go. It doesn't have to be more strategic than that. So that's for the ISFP. Now, what I see ISFPs getting kind of hung up on is, this is a tough one. And I'm really curious to hear if this resonates for the ISFPs listening. So if it does or doesn't, just let me know what you think about this. Send me a DM on Instagram. But I see ISFPs feeling like, but that doesn't really feel like a marketing strategy. Isn't this kind of supposed to be, this has always felt hard to me. And then this try before you buy thing, that seems too simple. Did that actually work? And I have to remind you, remember, this can be easy. So let it be. You don't necessarily need to be ultra organized for this business to be successful. You just need to get people experiencing what you have to offer. And I'm giving you permission right now to release the big, detailed strategies and just let this be easy. I see that all the time. We have our natural skills, and something in us, it's this inner critic. I think it's partly ego. It's this doubt that whatever comes natural to us and what comes easily to us is not really enough or not really worthwhile, because we've been fed the lie that for something to be worthwhile, it has to be hard. You have to work hard at it. And so when something crops up and it's like, oh, that's kind of easy. I don't even, whatever. It's easy for me to do that. We kind of toss it aside and we don't leverage it. And a lot of this marketing personality type stuff is, I have conversations about it all day long with people. Me just encouraging them, this can be easy. You do this so naturally, you don't even realize you're doing it. And that's a good thing. Now let's just leverage that. You can let go of all the things that feel hard and complicated. And with the ISFP specifically, and anybody in the Explorer tribe, I see them kind of get attached to the idea of going the exact opposite route and going the analyst route, going with logic. And I don't know if that comes from just being told that's what needs to happen from an early age or what. I don't know where this is really coming from, but I see them a lot of times not thinking that what comes naturally to them is going to be enough to take them to success, and then automatically jumping directly over to their exact opposite, their worst marketing strategy, and trying to make that work. And that's just, you're just setting yourself up for failure, right? And that's why I tell you exactly what your worst marketing strategy is in your full report, so you can just stay away from it. And I've received emails like, oh my goodness, the worst marketing strategy, that's exactly what I've been trying to make work for the last 2 years. Oh, dang. Okay, well, let's just be grateful that you have figured this out today and not 2 years from now, and having wasted 4 years. It's not a waste, but let's be smart about this. Let's do what comes naturally to us, because when you feel good, your audience feels good. And that's what this is all about. When you're trying to just force things to happen, That's not going to work. We know that's not going to work. We all know that from life experience. So, all right, that's the ISFP. Moving on to number 3, ESTP, also known as the entrepreneur, which I don't really love the also known as name here because we're all entrepreneurs, but understand 16 personalities, their assessment and what they call these personality types, that assessment wasn't built for entrepreneurs. It was built for all people. And so regardless of what they did for a living or anything. And so, I don't know, somebody looked at the tenets and the preferences of the ESTP and said, that's like an entrepreneur. We know now that we're all entrepreneurs and you don't have to be a specific personality type to be a successful one. So don't let that trip you up too much. It is AKA entrepreneur. Now, these ESTPs, they tend to be smart, energetic, and very perceptive. And they typically enjoy living on the edge. So these are pretty risky people. Super perceptive, and you'll see how that comes into their best marketing strategy in a second. But ESTPs, they really find their flow when they are at a lively event and they're surrounded by people and energetic, fun conversation. And typically, you're going to find the ESTP entertaining, being the center of attention, or off to one side in a fiery discussion about their latest business deal or something really exciting. Either way, the ESTP is in their element in this environment. Now, if you're an introvert, you're like, oh my gosh, that is not my favorite environment. But for the ESTP, this is where he or she totally thrives. So I mentioned that these ESTPs, they're smart, energetic, and very perceptive. And typically, heightened level of perception allows them to be really great salespeople. Some of the best salespeople in the world are ESTPs. And so I recommend to ESTPs to include direct sales conversations in their marketing strategy. And to that point, this is definitely not how I'm wired, but I recognize that this totally works for ESTPs. See, for them, there's really no need for long indoctrination periods. Okay. So remember back when we've spoken about the entire diplomat tribe, they really love to go deep and they love to indoctrinate their people and they love to create lots and lots of content. So by the time they get to the sales conversation, they know that this person knows what they need to know in order to make the right decision for them, right? Like that's how the diplomats work. Now, the ESTP, and I've talked to people, I've talked to ESTPs and they're like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. Like there's no need for them. There's really no need for long indoctrination periods. They're best when they can just cut to the chase and directly ask their potential customer for the sale. Okay. So they're just going straight in. From the outside, it looks like they're just going straight for the sale and it feels great for them. It can feel a little abrupt for others, the ones that are kind of just like watching from afar and watching them sell. But what they're actually doing is they're using I think of them as like spidey senses, like these really heightened levels of perception about the person that they're selling to. They're picking up on these really small, little critical details about that person and crafting the sales message in real time. I've watched this happen and it just amazes me. I do not have this strength. I will say it right now, but they get into that prospective customer's mind and body, and it seems like soul, like so quickly. They pick up on these subtle little cues, and then they use those cues to tweak and craft that sales message directly to the person that they're speaking to get them to buy. That's why they're such great salespeople, because they take that, we're in this together mentality. They get right next to the person that they're selling to. And that person feels like, wow, like this person really gets me, and yes, I want to buy from you. And that's how the ESTP succeeds. Interesting, right? If you've listened to this, and you're not an ESTP, you are probably listening to this and you're like, oh, I think I know one of these people. And you probably do. They're so good at this. And I also see, I've seen sales trainings try to teach this, and I'm sure they're somewhat successful at it. But I also recognize that ESTPs don't even really need to be taught this. Like, they're just so natural at it. It's just how they operate. And to the point where they don't really understand why you need to be trained in sales, because it's just come so naturally to them in the past. Now, with all of that said, the thing that holds ESTPs back typically is that they don't really see the need for marketing, because they just want to go straight to the sale. But what I'll say to you, as if you're an ESTP listening and you resist the idea of marketing, you just want to go for the sale. While you're still going to spend most of your time perfecting your sales strategy, remember that a feel-good marketing strategy can really support you and make sales that much easier, okay? So it does this by preparing your prospective customer to buy before they even get to speak with you. So just a little bit, not a ton, not like diplomat level, but just a little bit of indoctrination before they get on the phone with you or before they come into your office to talk about what they're going to buy from you is going to lessen the load that your sales strategy needs to pick up. Okay, so marketing does help. It does help, and just a little bit of indoctrination in there can help you out and do that. If you're listening and you're like, yeah, okay, that's super cool, but how? It's in the full report. Grab that, read through it again, make notes, pick up on those nuggets. There are worksheets right in the full report that you can start filling out and really getting clear on what feels good to you, how you can change your current marketing strategy to fit you better, and what tactics you can let go of too. So it's a short full report, right? It's short, but it's powerful. I don't give you any kind of fluff. I only give you what you need, and then I get you on your way, right? That's a point. So grab that full report if you need more help with this. Last personality type of this tribe is the ESFP, also known as the entertainer. And the ESFP tends to be spontaneous, energetic, and enthusiastic. Oh my goodness, so much enthusiasm coming out of ESFPs. Life is truly never boring around them. Never. They find flow when they are spontaneously breaking into song and dance, cracking a joke, and earning their audience's attention. And it really fuels them to let their fun energy out and express it. It sounds a little counterintuitive, like letting all that energy out. It would sound that would maybe drain them, right? Like letting the air out of the balloon. But as an ESFP, if you're an ESFP, you know that it's not counterintuitive. Letting your energy out and just that level of just full expression fuels you even more. It feels so good. You were truly born to entertain and inspire us, right? So because of this, ESFPs, their best marketing strategy is going to include entertaining an audience, surprise, surprise, whether it be from a stage or through a video, okay? Because your spirit as an ESFP is captivating and it's fun to watch. So leverage it by physically appearing in front of your audience as much as possible, okay? Now, remember, this can be easy. You're still a part of the explorer tribe, and so you might kind of get sucked into trying to over-strategize this, but don't let yourself do that. Just stay as fun and easy and spontaneous as you possibly can here, and that's going to do you well. And another thing that might trip ESFPs up here is I see ESFPs needing to kind of toe the line between structuring the entertainment that they provide and not structuring it. So I see ESFPs doing really well with a solid outline of what they're going to present, what they're going to do from stage or through a video, but too much structure is going to take their freedom away. But without any structure, without an outline, they tend to go down some rabbit holes, long tangents, and kind of lose their audience. So if you're an ESFP, I want you to keep that attention because it's going to feel so good for you. So if you haven't yet tried this, anytime that you show up in front of your audience, live or virtually, have just a simple outline. Try to stick to it. Try to stick to it as much as you can. I know you're going to go on a couple tangents here and there, but that's going to help you really get your message across the best possible way. Okay? All right. Those were our 4 personality types of the Explorer Tribe. I hope that has been enlightening for you, whether you're part of the Explorer Tribe or not. And the next 2 weeks, we're going to hear from people in the Explorer Tribe. So stay tuned for that. And if you need to find out what your best marketing strategy is, it's super simple. Just visit marketingpersonalities.com. All right. We'll talk next week. Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Marketing Personalities Podcast. Now it's time to connect your marketing strategy to your personality type. Go to marketingpersonalities.com/MPP to download your marketing personality type full report. Use the code MPP at checkout to get $10 off. And that's a super special code for podcast listeners as a way to say thank you for being here. In your full report, you'll learn about your personality type, how it relates to the work you do, what your best marketing strategy includes so you can start implementing it right away, what your worst marketing strategy includes so you can avoid it, and so much more. Go to marketingpersonalities.com/MPP to get your full report and use the code MPP at checkout to receive $10 off your purchase. And one more thing before you skip on to the next podcast. Would you please share this episode with your entrepreneur friends who also need to feel good about their marketing strategies? Take a quick screenshot of your podcast app right now and share it out via text, Facebook, or my favorite, Instagram. Remember to tag me at Marketing Personalities in the photo so I can be sure to send you a huge high five and thank you for sharing the love. This podcast is edited and produced by the Podcast Engineers. They're pretty great, and you can find them at podcastengineers.com. That's all for now. Thanks as always for listening, and I'll catch you back here next week on the Marketing Personalities Podcast. Love ya. Bye.